Wow. Yeah,
Yep.
we swept the Padres. It's not that we swept the Padres that's shocking. It's the fact that we swept anybody that's shocking. The Mets are playing good baseball. Won 5 of their last 6.
5 in a row.
5 in a row. Things feel good in the Mets world right now. We're going to talk about all that happened in this past series. We got some media marvels for you guys, as well as just breaking down the state of the team. We're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline. This weekend might have changed people's thoughts, opinions, feel of what could go on at the trade deadline. Me and James will give you exactly what we're thinking. Just everything going on in the Mets world. You know the deal over here. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you enjoy it, make sure you follow us on all our social media at Mets'd Up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you want to see the YouTube version of this, go to the Mets'd Up Podcast YouTube channel. You can go subscribe over there so you can see our beautiful faces. Funny enough, someone on the last episode commented, I've only been listening to you guys for the last couple of years. Crazy to see what you look like. Can you even imagine that, James?
No, it totally can. I've listened to podcasts in the past where I found out what the podcasters looked like, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. So then there was like, there was one. I don't listen too much anymore, but the Stuff You Should Know podcast, I think it's NPR. I don't know who puts it on. Good podcast. It was. I liked it a lot more a couple of years ago, but
before you knew what he looked like.
No, there's one where like I intentionally was like, I never want to know what these people look like ever.
Okay.
Like I don't want to ever break that wall. But happy some of you guys that do. We appreciate all the YouTube listeners.
Yeah.
That's how we make our money. So it's nice when you guys tune in on there.
And if you're not on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get going into this because there's not been many positive episodes this year. We had like a little 2-week stretch. We're having a little bit of a stretch right now, and it does coincide beautifully with Grimace throwing out the first pitch, and the team hasn't lost since Grimace has stepped foot on the Citi Field. In Citi Field, the gay Mets, ever since June's come around and they've changed their logos and everything to Pride, the Mets have been winning a lot more games. And just straight up, JD Martinez putting this team on his back offensively has really changed the outlook of this team moving forward.
Fully. JD Martinez won 2 games single-handedly for the Mets this week, both the Thursday walk-off against the Marlins and the Friday night rainy game against Matt Waldron, the knuckleball. It's silly what he's doing. Like this, he is exactly the guy he's always been. Shame on us for doubting him because we say a lot of things in this podcast and we get a lot right. We also get a lot wrong, and that was one that we both weren't as positive about as a lot of other Mets fans, and we were totally fucking wrong. JD Martinez has been a lightning rod for this team. He's saved them in a way, and it's such a refreshing feeling for him to be this professional hitter that feels like the Mets really haven't had a guy like this in a while. Like the trio of Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor, I love them all as players. I think they all complement each other really well. But just to have this linchpin between them, someone who takes good at bats, who's aggressive in the right spots, who has so much power. His opposite field home runs this weekend were nuts.
Awesome.
The one he hit on Saturday, I've never seen a play. It looked like he inside out of the ball in the inner half and put it into the bullpen 400 feet. That was shocking, but just there's a clutch factor. It seems like there's like a stern reverence. He's also the only player in the roster who's won a World Series title, I believe. I think that's very relevant because I think only him, Lindor, and Ottavino are the only ones who ever played in a World Series.
I could get behind that.
I don't know if Ottavino was on that Red Sox team. I think he was.
No,
but then he wouldn't have won it because that was the team that JD Martinez won the World Series on. Yeah, so I think actually him and Lindor are the only ones in the team who have played in a World Series. That's actually very interesting to think about. But there's just like a stern reverence with JD Martinez right now, where there's such a comfortability with him at the plate. He's had a streak from Saturday to Sunday where he was on base in 10 straight plate appearances. He was squeaking balls through the hole. He was putting them in the gap. Everything was working.
Yeah, I mean, he, like you said, he brings that cool, calm, collected attitude. It's like the quiet confidence a little bit here. And it also, I mean, he talked about it after he hit the walk-off home run too, how things have changed since they had that player-only meeting, a lot different vibes. Gary and Keith and Ron were talking about it with Steve, your favorite old moon face over there, Steve Gelbs, gave a good story about how in the past in the Mets locker room after the game, guys are on their phones, kind of keeping to themselves. Were very quiet, doing their own thing. Now, before games, after games, these guys are all talking to each other. They're talking about the games. Apparently, they have meetings after every single game to go over what guys did well and what guys felt like they needed to do better or what they were trying to work on, whatever the thought process is. And while maybe that could be overkill for some teams, it does seem like whatever this change has been since that players only meeting, whether it's in the vibes, whether it's in the attitude, whether it's in the preparation, it has made a difference.
Totally. Lindor talked about that today in his post-game presser at his locker, where he just said that the team was, and we said it a lot, and it was very obvious, the team just from top to bottom was lacking accountability.
Yep.
Said most players just were not, it wasn't like an open forum for things. That players only meeting changed it. And also, I remember it was the horrible loss this Sunday against the Diamondbacks, the Qatar Marte game. And the Mets took a selfie after that game when they got on the bus to go to the plane, where they were all like smiling on the
Yeah.
bus, and people killed them for that shit. Like, how can this team be smiling after a loss? It goes like one of the low points in the season. But I think that is kind of a function of where the team came from the players only meeting. And they're 9-2 since that, like, since they smiled for a selfie after a loss. So it just, seems to be a little more collectiveness of this team, a little bit more togetherness. And again, I think a lot of this does start with JD Martinez.
Oh, not Grimace?
What? Oh yeah, I mean Grimace too. The Grimace shit is so funny. Shout out to all of the creators in Mets world who are making these Grimace memes because they're so fucking
So
funny.
good.
Like, one of my new favorite accounts on Twitter is her name's Diana. She's growing so
Legend.
fast. She's so funny. And there was another one today. It was like one of my favorite memes that ever made onto Mets Twitter. I'm gonna find it and shout out the person's handle because I tweeted at them and I said, I think this is like my favorite meme I've ever seen. God, I gotta find it. 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 It's coming. It's coming. It's coming fast. You can talk a little bit now, and I'm gonna find it.
Okay, and shout out Mike Janela too. You guys have seen him. He's
Yeah,
like
Janelle's a beast.
the host during the game and pregame for the Mets. Someone at City Field today had a City Connect custom Grimace jersey, and that's kind of sick. That's kind of awesome. So shout out to that guy spending maybe $200+ on a Grimace jersey, but
Yeah.
honestly looks pretty clean. I'm not gonna lie.
I found the tweet from Steph at what year is it? And it shows how it feels to be a Mets fan right now. And it's just like Grimace, but like in a scene of like the gates of heaven opening. It's Grimace in the middle, like instead of what's supposed to be God. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on Twitter. It's been amazing. It's the Mets always seem to have these weird things
Super.
that spurn rallies and like fun times, like the parakeet with
Yep.
Yoenis Cespedes, a game I was at, which was just a surreal moment.
Wow.
Remember the dildo with Travis Darno
Oh
8 years
yeah,
ago?
Donnie
Bizarre.
Stevenson.
Yeah, Donnie Stevenson, that one was kind of a miss, but at least they tried. But I know for a fact that as the Mets do, like now it's a fun thing with the fans. I know the organization is going to take to this and surely
kill
run it
it.
into the ground
Yeah.
over the next 3 weeks. But like, this is going to be a time that we look back on in years as Mets fans. Be like, remember that week and a half when Grimace had us in a chokehold? Because that's what it is right now. He does. And just go back JD Martinez for a second. Like it's kind of awe inspiring what he's doing statistically at the plate. Like he did have a pretty rough first month with the team, but he also didn't have a spring training.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of him getting together. In the last week, he's hitting 400 with a 500 on base percentage and a 900 slugging percentage. Over the last 2 weeks, he's batting 333 with 5 homers, same amount of walks and strikeouts. But then you even zoom out to over his last month to really get into context of how good he's been. For his last 30 games, 120 at bats, he's a 300, 400, 500 guy slash line with 24 RBIs, 7 home runs in a month. Like that's a generational month and it's something that's really, really helped his team. I think we finally, after all these configurations, have found the lineup alignment that works the best for everybody's mentality, especially now that Lindor is crushing. Nimmo seems to be a little more comfortable. JD at 3 keeps it going. Pete is Pete. I have to hit 4. And then after that, you just see what happens. But it feels finally like the floodgates opening on Sunday was just fucking awesome for this lineup.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned like Nimmo has been struggling up the entire year, basically. Like he started off the year hot, hitting the ball well, just wasn't getting the luck. And then he moved to the 3-hole and it completely fucked him. We talked about it in the last episode. But now since going to the 2-hole, look at the games just against San Diego. 2 hits on Friday, 3 hits on Saturday, 3 hits on Sunday. Nimmo was a guy who was not really getting hot at that point. Or yeah, my bad. It was 2, 2, and 3. But he was struggling to just get going consistently, getting hits. And it seems like now in the 2-hole, he gets back to that Brandon Nimmo brain that we love, where he's like patient aggressiveness rather than I'm here to be driving in runs. Also, Francisco Lindor in the leadoff spot's been such a godsend too. He's been so good in that position. I know we talked about it last episode, but even today on Sunday, getting that game started with a leadoff home run after he gave up a run where McGill gave up the 2-run walk, and then they just kind of dinked and doinked us a little bit. For Lindor to answer back like that completely changed the vibe of the game too. Put Dylan Cease on the ropes from the start.
Majorly, Cease has been such a workhorse this year too, and the Mets jumping all over him. I think it was only I wrote it today for Row the World, but this was only the 3rd time this year Cease hasn't completed 5 innings in a start out of 13 starts, and he's been that true bell cow type. I think that's what Gary Cohen calls him today in the broadcast, like type of pitcher. It doesn't really exist in the league anymore, and he's kind of been the driving force of this entire Padres team. I don't think they would be where they are, which is now a team slightly under 500, if not for him, somewhat like independently. And this was kind of the way that like a sweep in a 3-game baseball series is a difficult thing. It happens a lot, but it really, in retrospect, doesn't happen that often. It just felt like when we got the game on Saturday, all right, tomorrow you're probably going to get shut down by Cease. So you're going to need a big performance if you want to win this game. And the fact that first inning, Lindor pisses on the ball, puts in the second deck, Pete hits a home run too, and you're bang, right away. Dylan Cease is completely on the ropes. This Padres bullpen had been worked relatively hot. Waldron gave him 7 innings on Friday, but you were just on him. And the whole Francisco Lindor thing, this is our third time doing this as Mets fans. Like, we got to get used to it. It's going to happen every year.
Yeah.
Like, he just seems like he's going to have a bad April and then be one of the most valuable players in baseball. There's no two ways about it. He is the most valuable player in all of baseball since we gave him a standing ovation in the National League. Since we gave him a standing ovation on April 12th, his slash line is 260, 330. I think almost 500. The OPS is over 800. He's once again, he's going to be a 5 to 6 win player. He made that amazing play on Saturday, the flip up the middle. He's fantastic. He's so good. We take him for granted. It's such a great thing to have him on this team.
Yeah, no, I love Francisco Lindor. Sorry for ever doubting you, bud. Never again will you catch me doubting Francisco Lindor. Things were going well. Things were going well this series for sure. And it was just nice. It was nice to beat up the Padres. Again, this is a team that we are going to have to jump ahead if you want any chance at making the postseason. Those aspirations are still a long way away. It is June, and there are still so many games that have to be played. But it was nice to see the Mets go up against a team that they need to be better than, and they were better than them this weekend. It's nice to see Padres fans like all depressed and sad every once in a while too.
Yeah, I mean, Padres fans is just like a strange existence. I'm reading I've talked about a lot. I'm reading this book about like the history of baseball called The Lords of the Realm right now. And the Padres were almost created by Walter O'Malley to fail and be bad. Like, he wanted to put another team in Southern California, and he put the old general manager that he took from the Brooklyn Dodgers to LA Dodgers, Buzzy Bavasi, and he put him as like a chairman of that team because he knew he was kind of an idiot. And he was just like, yeah, just go out there, be in my division, and just suck. So the Padres' entire existence is basically based on the Dodgers instructing them to be bad from Walter O'Malley. And they're a sad existence as a franchise. It's just weird this series. Like, they have a strange roster. They have a strange ball club. Manny Machado getting ejected. Like, the team is not great vibes.
Wow, I didn't know that, but you're reading that baseball book. That's the difference between me and you. If there's a YouTube video, if there's a Netflix documentary about it, I'm all over it before anybody. But reading a book, not my thing.
I might like, but I kind of want to like, I've always like fantasized the idea of like doing YouTube stuff. Like, you don't think baseball history is good for YouTube? I'd love to turn like the chapters of this book into YouTube videos.
YouTube. I think you're gonna have to work really hard because you have to like find
visual elements.
Yeah,
and I know. But like, the stories in this book are so insanely incredible. Like, I mean, I don't want to bore you guys more baseball history, but I'm reading right now about like the establishing of like the first free agency, and it was like the first time anybody like ever sold their players at the deadline because they were all going to be free agents the next year, and it was the Oakland A's in 1975, coming off 3 championships, but the owner had no money, and they tried to the owner, Charlie Finley, tried to actually sell their best players. Like, they had a deal totally in place to sell Vida Blue to the Yankees for $1.5 million cash.
Wow.
Just buy a player. And same with and Raleigh Fingers and Joe Rudy to the Red Sox for $1 million each. And then the commissioner undid it all because you can't just trade players for cash. You can't do that. And then there was a quote from Joe Rudy. He was like, "Oh, I'm worth $1 million. That's kind of cool."
Of course, yeah. Imagine Keith. I don't know if you caught it. I don't remember which game it was, but Keith this weekend. Oh, it was the day that he got traded, so that would have been Saturday.
Yeah, right? Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on Saturday, Keith was talking about, because that's also the day Tom Seaver was traded. He was traded to the Mets.
That was the old trade deadline, June 15th.
The old trade deadline.
And I was reading this book on June 15th, that chapter yesterday, Saturday. Yeah. And it was about that trade deadline, the first like sell-off trade deadline ever.
Which is funny because he was like, that was when the trade deadline was real, about getting players, not just contracts and dumping salary anymore.
Yeah, and Howie made a comment about that too. But I think it is funny that Keith said that, because just imagine, Mets fans, like how much we've all been talking and obsessing about the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Imagine if the trade deadline was yesterday.
I can't.
68 games. How did you know?
That was a bad decision to ever make it that early.
I just think back then, baseball was such a vibe thing, dude. They just didn't care. Like, baseball now, I was arguing with my uncle about this just now tonight, and he was like, 2 weeks ago, he was pissed about how bad the Mets were. Like, he was like, this is terrible. They have no direction. Get rid of everybody. And now they win 5 games in a row. It's like, they can't trade these guys. We're going to make a run. So I'm like, you changed so quickly. But it's like, he wants to like keep Severino and keep JD Martinez, obviously, because I'm like, we got to get in the race by August. Then we can make some noise. Whereas like baseball now is just asset management.
Tangent. I had to remind you about commanding the menu. I was texted to tell you about commanding the menu.
This is just also funny. We're just, again, with family this weekend. Just, there was a story of my aunt, the guy she's dating, where she said like one of the things that she likes about him is that he can command a menu. Like, they go out to eat, And she's like,
What's
he
that
really is in
mean?
control of the menu. Like he knows what to pick. And I was like, what?
What?
And then she was like, yeah, that's why me and my husband didn't work out. You couldn't command the menu.
Couldn't
So
command the menu. If I
yeah,
had
I figured you would
if
just remind me that we talk about before or after the show, but just I guess the listeners can get a little piece of that from my aggressively Italian family.
if anyone if I was with a significant other and they're like, "You don't command the menu enough," I'd be like, "Damn, like I'm a bitch. I suck."
I don't think I've ever dated someone and they were like they wanted me to order for them. I think that's such a no. But she's Annette is like, yeah, I want to command. You want someone who commands the menu.
Oh, I'm glad that's what it was. That was awesome. That was a good one. That's a good
Yeah,
little
right. But
interjection into there. But back to baseball, back
yeah,
to the New York Mets. Yeah, this team though is in a weird place though. I don't know if I said this to you off air or on air. Maybe it was to my dad. But I was like, this Padres series is going to tell us a lot. So if the Mets get swept, they're selling. I think this would have like been the nail in the coffin. We're getting rid of everybody who's anybody. We'd be making moves. If the Mets won 1 of 2, you're like, probably still going to be sellers. 2 of 3, you're like, meh. You probably sell off a few guys here and there. You make some decisions, some tactical moves. A sweep here, does it change anything for you? Because mentally for me, it's changing my head a little bit here. But I also feel like this is how they do it. They suck me right back in every single time I think I'm out.
I just think that knowing David Stearns and knowing the type of executive David Stearns was in Milwaukee, this doesn't change anything for me because I think no matter what, again, like I said, like this isn't about baseball anymore. It's always just about asset management. And I think that for you to get to the middle of August, when you know for a fact that this team at their best, who the fuck are they beating in the playoffs? They're really not. They
The
really aren't.
Padres?
Yeah, I guess the Padres also stink. I think this series talks a lot more about the Padres. Talks about the Mets. Talks the Padres are not
Probably.
that good. Like truthfully, at the end of the day, especially without Darvish and Joe Musgrove in their rotation, like Adam Mazer or Mazer, Major. I
Mazer.
think it's Major. It's
Oh,
Major. Adam
Mazer.
Major on Saturday. That guy was a clusterfuck on the mound.
Couldn't throw a strike.
He almost has as many walks in his first 3 starts of his major league career than he had his entire season in the minor leagues in 2023.
Whoa.
It's like and I think there's like something else just thinking about like prospect development, like evaluating players when they come to the majors where sometimes these minor league pitchers don't translate and it all comes back to fastball.
Yeah.
And Major's fastball, he knew we couldn't put in the strike zone because when he did put in the strike zone, the Mets started to
Shit
bomb it.
on. Yeah.
So it was like, I think that's such a thing. And where was I going in this tangent? So I
Trade
think
deadline.
to have JD Martinez on this team past the trade deadline is probably stupid. I know it's fun to have him in the lineup, but like looking back, it's probably just a little dumb. Like if you could really get and it all depends on the market. It depends what the market develops.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with these guys. Now the fact that the Astros are down a bat with Jose Abreu being released, it seems like we could find a bidding war between the Astros and the Mariners to get a first baseman or a DH at the trade deadline. And
Anthony
those are
Rizzo just got hurt too, by the way.
and he stinks. But I don't think we're trading. We're not trading.
No, we better not.
I'm not trading Pete Alonso to the Yankees. In that case, we're buying. I'm not doing that. But I said this. I was on the radio this week in ESPN Radio, and they were asking me about Mets trade deadline stuff. And you remember the deadline 2022,
Yeah.
where the Brewers are in first place. I think they were either 45 and 37, something like that. They were almost 10 games over 500. They were on the trade deadline day. They were tied with the Cardinals, top of the division. And their records would have been fringe wild card records, which is funny thinking about where the NL is this year and the fact that everyone is in the wild card race. Where in that year, even if you were 8-9 games over 500, you were barely in the wild card race.
What'd you call it last night? The bastardization of Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I had a few drinks, but I guess I'll do the Brewers story first, and I'll talk about Rob Manfred. But 10 games over 500, they trade the best closer in baseball, one of the best closers in baseball, in Josh Hader. And I think objectively, in a vacuum, outside a vacuum, that wasn't a bad trade at all. Because in that trade, they got Taylor Rogers, who's a fine reliever. They still had Devin Williams, who's at the time was not Josh Hader, but still one of the 5 best relievers in baseball. And they got Robert Gasser in that trade, who's like has come up this year and looks like a very steady major league starter. They'll probably have in the rotation for a while. And in that trade, they also got Esteury Ruiz, who they were able to throw in the 3-team Sean Murphy trade and basically turn Esteury Ruiz into William Contreras and Joel Payamps. William Contreras is a legit MVP candidate, and Joel Payamps is a really good reliever. So this is kind of what I'm talking about Stearns. And that Brewers team actually tanked after they made that trade, and they missed the playoffs. And when that trade happened, they were winning the division. But it's because David Stearns looked at this roster. He said, this team isn't good enough to win the World Series, no matter what their record is on July 31st. And I'm just going to make this trade because we're not re-signing this guy. And getting those assets put them in significantly better position now, 3 years later. But it's a tough pill to swallow. And I really think that's some foreshadowing to what's going to happen with this Mets team.
The reason I push back for 2 reasons. One, Brewers just didn't have the money the Mets have. Now, I agree.
Sure.
It like in a vacuum when we're talking about all this stuff. If there are players, the Mets are like, we are not going to be able to keep them. Like, genuinely speaking, Luis Severino is probably one of the more interesting guys at the trade deadline. A pitcher who has the qualifying offer available still at the end of the year. But
Hmm.
also, if he continues to pitch like this, he's going to get a multi-year deal. And he's going to be getting paid 20-ish million dollars a year.
Yeah, but it'll still be like Taiwan Walker money rather than like get to the next level, like a 2 or
But
3 year deal.
yeah, I mean, Walker, what did Taiwan Walker get? He got
I think he got like 3 for 60 about.
okay. But like I think the idea is like, okay, he's gonna be a little tougher to re-sign. Maybe move a guy like him, but then you have the big elephant in the room, literally, Pete Alonso. And it's like, what do you do with a guy like him? And that's where I think it's different than the Brewer situation, especially because the position is the closer position as well. Like we know that relatively speaking, that is a replaceable position, easier to
Yeah,
replace the
that's
closer
true.
than it is a power hitting first baseman or what JD Martinez is doing on the offensive side here, or even a starting pitcher necessarily. But I also hear what you're saying because David Stearns is a smart man. Like you said,
Shrewd.
this team. I mean, I hate to do this on an episode that's positive, but this current iteration of this team is not winning the World Series. They need improvements. They need to bring guys in. There needs to be a lot of things that happens for us to even become a playoff team still. But it's going to be hard for the Mets, especially considering how bad attendance has been this year. It's going to be really hard for them to get rid of pieces, especially when they're becoming fan favorites or already are one of the fan favorites, already are your huge marketing.
I was thinking about that too because the Mets, we've seen Peter Gammons talk about, we've seen some other report. I think Travis Sawchik had something. Someone ESPN might have had something too.
Big
That
Boo,
year
Boo
over year,
McGill.
yeah, year over year attendance, the Mets have lost the most of baseball this season. And this is now a 2 year slide for the Mets in attendance from 2022 when things were a lot of fun. So that probably is something that's pulling it too. But I just still think, like, again, in terms of strictly asset management, if you don't think this team actually has a chance to legitimately make noise, and it's hard to say that because they are playing well right now, but it's just to get in the playoff series, let's say you make the wild card, you get the last wild card spot, and then we're blessed with playing, it would be the NL Central winner in the first round.
Yeah,
Like,
3
yeah,
road games.
I was saying you're 3 road games, but we could beat
Of
the
course.
Brewers easily.
Yeah.
We could definitely beat the Brewers. We could beat any. And I don't know who's going to win the NL Central, but they all just kind of suck. They're all the
Yeah.
same. It doesn't matter. But then it's like I don't know. Like I think about the Diamondbacks last year, and the Diamondbacks still had like pitchers atop their rotation, just better than the pitchers the Mets have atop their rotation.
Yes.
And I don't know. So like, do you hang on to try and like have this miraculous wild card run just for this? Because like I think about 2019 too, and I always think about losing Zach Wheeler for nothing because
Why do you got to
it's
bring it up?
horrible. He's best. He's like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like I know he got shelled on Sunday against the Orioles, but it was his first time allowing 8 earned runs since 2018. So I was like, oh, that was
Sick.
with the Mets. I put that in my
Yeah.
Roto World blurb, and I was like, yeah, that was with the Mets. Um, but that team was different. Like that team had a similar vibe in the first half of this team, but that team was fucking awesome.
Yes.
Like that 2019 Mets team, like you look up and down, like you get to a playoff series with DeGrom and Wheeler, you could beat anyone in a playoff
Of
series.
course.
Like you had Pete blasting off. McGill was one of the best hitters in baseball. Like Nimmo was coming into his
JD
own.
Davis.
Yeah, like that was a team
Michael
where you're like,
Conforto had a 150 WRC plus.
that was a team that no one wanted to see in the playoffs. So this Mets team is really just a hodgepodge collection of 1 year contracts who probably were acquired for the purpose of being traded. At the end of the day, they really probably a lot of these guys were Severino, Mania. Like they knew that if shit went bad, you could just dump these guys and get a little bit back for them. That you got them for nothing, a few $1,000,000. But a lot of it does come back to what I told you last night after a few beverages is the bastardization of baseball by Rob Manfred.
There it is.
Because a tweet went viral, but from Kate Feldman this weekend, whereas like it was just a screenshot of the MLB standing and said this is ridiculous, the National League standings. Because as of right now in the National League, 4 teams are over 500, and it's like I understand like we should keep dropping these stats. All the creators, everyone's talking about Mets 2 games out, Mets 2 games out, Mets 2 games out, but like 2 games out means significantly less when there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in between the Mets and a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So the 2 games, 1.5 games, sure, but the Mets still have the 3rd worst record in the National League. So I understand the
That's
games
tough.
out is one thing, but you're on a 5-game winning streak and you're still behind the Nationals, you're still behind the Reds, you're still behind the Pirates. And I would even argue those teams have more exciting pieces in their roster than the Mets do at the end of the day. This Pirates team in a playoff series,
Don't
you have
want to face
Paul
them.
Skeens and Jared Jones. No
And
one
Mitch
wants to
Keller
go.
as the third.
No one wants to go into that series. Where the Mets would be maybe Kodai Senga if he comes back, maybe Christian Scott if they ever let him back up, and maybe Luis Severino if he's still here. That's just not.
Same.
It's not as scary. It's not the same thing. So it's just there's a lot of joy right now, and I think a lot of Mets fans' ideas are changing. But they keep just being these questions: are the Mets buyers or sellers? The Mets buyers or sellers? It's not going to be black and white. But that's also just because we've ruined this game and too many teams make the playoffs. So every single general manager, their only goal is to win 50% of their games and try and get lucky and not spend any money and not have to try. And stupid as hell,
Ooh,
but that's where we are.
I just had a brain blast because everybody's so interested. There's like, okay, of the teams that are like out of it, right? It's a little exercise here.
It's like 14.
Colorado Rockies, Miami Marlins, Chicago White Sox, and then the A's and the Angels. Those are the
Yes.
really
Only
only
two.
teams in baseball that are dead. Their
Yeah.
season's over. It's June 16th. You're not making the playoffs. I'll plant my flag there. The Mets can have actually a shit ton of leverage because they have playoff caliber players, maybe some of the best available players out of any of the teams. And there's also that perception of they're still in it, which is it's confusing. It's a mind fuck to think about because again, that wild card being so big and being only 2 games back gives you the belief that you're in it. But we also might have the best assets of any team at the deadline that's actually looking to make any moves. So we might be able to get back monster packages because everyone's going to be calling the Mets saying, "What's Luis Severino available for?" Yeah, actually, we do want Pete Alonso now. And that's the hard part. As a fan, I don't want them to sell because I love the idea of like going hard and being good. And I
Having
would love
fun.
for the Mets to go get a big pitcher at the deadline or go get whatever they have to improve this team to try and win the World Series as much as possible. Don't take any of this conversation from us as a saying we want to sell because I
Yeah.
want to win. It's fun.
Totally. I
Like
want to play baseball.
this weekend was fun. Just winning 3 games against the Padres was really fun. Some of the most fun baseball the Mets have seen since 2022. But is that the right choice? I'm sure happy I'm not David Stearns right now. I'm gonna have to make that decision at some point.
But that's also a big part of it. And Stearns and Steve keep being super coy with every
Very.
question about the trade deadline. But that's leverage. Like that's negotiation. You can't plant your flag and say we're buyers to trade
No.
deadline. Then you're gonna get bent over a barrel. Like that's not how this works. And I think there's also an element of what you're saying and what we're saying is that it's just a mix of old baseball ideas versus new baseball ideas where like we and like it comes back to that comment that Keith said where you used to make trades for players and talent rather than contracts and prospects. What it's true because the way that David Stearns ran those Brewers teams and how he's running these Mets teams already, like this is asset management.
Yeah.
This isn't frivolous, joyful baseball where it's like,
He doesn't give
let's
a
throw
fuck
the
how you
gloves.
feel.
Yeah, like let's throw the gloves out there and try and make some magic happen, friends. That's not what this is. Like this is we signed a bunch of 1 year deals because we knew we'd have if we were in it, we could stay in it. If not, we could trade them and recoup our money and not spend that much. Like we have to run this thing to shoestring for this year because this was kind of a wash year
Yeah.
based on the contracts that were on the books, the players that were available in free agency. It just was.
A bonus year almost. You could say if anything happens, that's great.
We're just playing baseball. We're just getting after it. And like the fact that they went the tank so hard, I think probably put us all in a different frame of mind. But now they're good again. But I also think that like if you went to a coma on March 27th, day before the regular season, a week after the Mets signed JD Martinez, and you woke up just now at 11:37 p.m. on Sunday, June 16th, and you saw the Mets record, you'd be like, that's not that far off I thought they were going to be. But you wouldn't have known about the 8 game losing and then this 5 game winning and all the chaos and Reese Hoskins and Edwin Diaz. You would have not known any of this stuff.
This would have been the negative side of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Because again, like we were saying 500 team. That's been our thing that we've been saying all off season.
5 games over, 5 games
500.
under.
Yeah. And right now they're the 5 games under after a 5 game winning streak. So it's like
Four.
it's such a weird and bizarre season, such a weird feel. I'm definitely just excited that we're on a high right now because again, we haven't had many this year and it got really, really down and deep and dark at one point. So excited that we're on a high. But man, this next like month or so up until the trade deadline is going to be weird. It's just going to be weird. Like this isn't ever a spot we've really been in as Mets fans, I feel like in our lifetime.
No, and it feels like that there's like this like
Well,
micro evaluation of the team happening every day. When in reality, I think all these decisions are basically made already internally.
oh, you think so? You think the decisions? I don't know if they're made yet.
I think we can make a bet in the podcast. I don't think JD Martinez is on this team day after the trade deadline.
Oh man,
We'll figure out a bet. I'm down to make a bet for it.
yeah, he. Okay, want to just like go through the roster of just. I'm not saying like every single player, but like
Yeah.
who do we think are the guys that, or who do you think are the guys that will not be on the team definitively? Like I don't think Pete's gonna fall on that thing just yet. I think he's more of a feel guy, a vibe guy. But
Yeah.
you think like no matter what, let's say the Mets are 5 games over 500 at the
No
deadline,
matter
you think
what.
JD Martinez is gone no matter what?
I think basically no matter what, JD Martinez, Luis Severino, Sean Manaea are gone.
Really?
Yes. I do.
Wow.
I just seeing the way the Stearns used to run those Brewers teams, like it's just very realistic expectations, and it's just if you don't think this team can actually get to a 7-game series with the Phillies or the Braves, the Dodgers, and beat them, then we're going to trade these guys because we want to get into that 7-game series next year, the year after, and we want a better chance to win that.
I think Severino is very dependent on how this team's doing, because if he's still pitching like this and they're in the playoff spot at the trade deadline, how do you move one of your better starters? How do you move a guy who's got 3? Like, what would the package be that you would have to say yes? Maybe, like, what would we have to be looking getting back?
Not that much, right?
Really?
It's a 1-year contract, and the guy's been injured for the last 3 years. And even though he's being really
Yeah.
effective right now, he's still only throwing fastballs. I think his Sierra is like over a run higher than his ERA.
Is it really?
Like,
Okay.
yeah, but still, just like
Mania, I can get behind, but also the thing with Mania too is we do have the player or there's the player option next year.
Yeah,
Which I guess if
and
he
Severino
pitches
has the
well,
qualifying offer.
yeah, I guess if Mania pitches well, he would decline that because he would want to try and get
Yes,
multiple years for someone, so that makes him more tradable. Like, I get that.
totally.
Severino's the one that's tough. JD's just so hard too, especially like now we're on the high of how good JD Martinez is as a
So
hitter.
good.
How do you get rid of the guy? But I guess you get rid of him because you're getting something back for a team that's not going to make any noise. I don't know. This is I hate this so much. Why can we either just be good or can we suck? I don't like being in the middle.
But like Steve Cohen told us directly last
I
week, he said it to
know.
Newsday at 10 million. He said this deadline's not going to be black and white. It just
Ugh.
isn't. And also, I don't. Okay, I'm saying like I think I'm actually wrong saying decisions are already made. I think it's totally going to be dictated by what you're saying, like what you're
Yes.
able to get back for any of these guys. But I just think it's fully open for business. If you
Okay.
if you make us an offer, like we think it's a good offer, we're just going to take it.
Please. Oh man, the Padres. You could use Starling Marte maybe
So
one day.
badly. Oh
The
my God.
Pirates. The Pirates could use a corner outfielder.
Right? I'm coming home. Starting
Yeah.
Marte,
Oh my
redemption
God,
arc.
that'd be sick. I mean, can't really play P. Diddy music, I think, anymore. That guy's a bad dude. But I'm coming home, Starling Marte to Pittsburgh. That would hit like crack.
And the Pirates are they have one of the worst defensive outfields in baseball, so it's fine. He fit right
Yeah.
in.
The
But
low effort may be bad around the young guys, but I mean, Starling Marte is hitting a little bit again. So
he's in fine. Yeah, I think he was actually the only Met regular on Sunday to not have a hit.
nice. Sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Only guy in the lineup starting 9 to not have a hit.
Wait,
Yeah.
to keep it on Starling Marte today, did you see the plays that he made in the field today?
Yeah, but I wish I hadn't.
The Luis Ariz double off the wall was shocking because he jumped into the wall and missed it by 8 to 10 feet. I mean, wasn't even close. I've never seen someone miss a ball jumping into the wall like that. Like, I'm not even talking about like it went over his glove. He missed it. He was on the wrong side of the wall. There was a corner. He was on the other side, which I've never seen before. Luis Ariz thought it was an out. They didn't score because they thought it was going to be an easily caught ball. Don't know how he missed that. Then he had the ball where he dove. I think Tatis hit a lazy fly ball to right field.
Horrible play.
He laid out for it. And I know like Howie and Gary and all those guys made like big calls, but it was a horrendous defensive play. It was a routine fly ball that he somehow made look incredibly difficult. And then the biggest one, and I don't know if you guys caught this, but I saw it on the condensed game because I was in between watching the game and being at a Father's Day barbecue. Shout out to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. But there was a ball hit to right field. It dropped in front of Marte. He was kind of jogging towards it again because God forbid that guy ever runs. He's allergic to running unless it's stealing second base every once in a while. And it dropped in front of him. And Adrian Hauser just looked out to the outfield and he's like, what the fuck are we doing? Which is kind of funny because it's like, I think even the players started realizing, how did that ball fall? Gary even made a comment. He's like, yeah, that was a unbelievably catchable ball that somehow fell in front of Starling Marte for a single. Like, just play better. How do you have an almost 800 OPS and you have less than 1 WAR? That doesn't even make sense.
Because he's like basically the worst defender in baseball. But yeah, it's
know.
frustrating. If there's anyone that could be traded, it'd be amazing if it was him. I think you probably could if it was next year. But I think having 1 year and $20 million in this contract for a slap hitting player that can't field, he's not slap hitting. That's a big mean. He's having a very good year offensively. But just him being that much of a drag on defense, it takes down the whole value of what he could be.
Would you pay the rest of the contract to get rid of him, or you're only trading him if the money goes with him too?
I still probably want something back. If I'm trading the whole contract, I would.
Well, you're going to get something back.
Yeah, I'd like some somewhat legitimate prospect, but I just don't think any of the team baseball wants a singles hitter right fielder that can't play defense.
Well, Padres, Pirates. Those are probably the two teams that would be fooled. But what if they took his contract? Would you take like a washing machine for him kind of thing?
Yeah, I think definitely. Because if they take Starling Marte's entire contract, then the Mets are actually in play to get below the third luxury tax threshold for the season,
Okay.
and they can reset that tax rate, and then they
Ooh,
cannot take it.
that could also play with the trade deadline
That's what
too.
I'm saying. Of course, it's going to play with the trade deadline. Like every single thing's in play here. Like there's
Ugh.
so many moving parts just whirring around. It really is. I think it's gonna be fascinating. I think that
What other Mets podcast get into the fucking asset management and the trade deadline money like we are?
I'm none definitely. That's why you guys listening to us. Of course, we love our listeners, all the ball knowers out there. But I just think a lot of Mets fans might be really frustrated with David Stearns the first week of August,
Probably,
and I might be
especially if
too.
Alonso's
I think also,
traded,
yeah, like I think it's a good chance I am as well. Like if I see Pete, but also like if there's a bidding war between the Astros and the Mariners, and we get like a legitimate prospect for Pete Alonso, I'm
like
like,
Lazaro Montes.
that's impossible. There's no way.
Please.
No, that's he's like a top 5 hitting prospect in baseball. 0% chance you get him. But I don't even know. I don't know enough about their systems to like make a comment about it. But I know the Astros have tons of exciting guys up and down it. Give me Bryce Matthews. Give me Bryce Matthews, first round
Luis
pick.
Baez.
I love Luis Baez. They wouldn't trade. I mean, they wouldn't trade for Verlander. I don't think they're trading for Pete.
Fair,
But
fair.
we'll see. I just think it's going to be a little fascinating thing. Like I was having a conversation with my dad. Like there's a world. Like this is one of the like the million permutations of trade deadline. The Mets could trade Pete Alonso and get Luis Robert. I wouldn't even be shocked.
Really?
I wouldn't be
Oh,
shocked
just
at all.
because the White Sox are stupid and
No, it's just because like if you can get a guy with control and for 3 years and trade the guy without it.
oh, you like Pete Alonso goes somewhere else, but
Yeah,
we
you
bring
trade
in
Pete
Luis
Alonso.
Robert. It's not
Separate
you're not trading
trades.
him to the White Sox.
No, it's not a swap. It's
Oh,
not a
okay.
swap.
I was like, why? Who would do that?
No, like I'm just saying, there's a world where the Mets make a win later move and also make a lose now move.
Yeah, I can see.
I
That's probably more so what they actually do.
Yeah, probably. And again, like we're gonna do a lot of dense trade deadline stuff. Probably do some live stuff for the YouTube channel next week or the week after. Really starting to get to the trade deadline. But I just think that the Mets are in such a fascinating place. Like, sure, they're 2 games out, but they're also the third worst record in the National League. You have to
Yeah,
leapfrog all these teams.
got to
They have
keep
a worse
saying that.
roster. It's bizarre. Like I want them to keep winning games. Like these next 5 series: Rangers, Cubs, Yankees. I think Astros, maybe Phillies mixed in. Like we're
I
gonna learn
want
a
this
lot
to
about
be a
this Mets team.
problem still because it's great if like the Mets are
Yeah.
winning. We're like, what the fuck do we do? We're winning.
And this is great conversation to have because it's just really interesting. And I think you guys also really love all the trade deadline stuff. But like every single day, I see the poll, the conversations: are the Mets buyers or the Mets sellers? That's just not how this works. I don't think it's how this works anymore. At least for a team that's going to be run by David Stearns. And really, just fascinated to see how he plays this because perception plays into it too. Like this is his first trade deadline. Same reason he didn't want to trade his first move. Didn't want to be trading Pete Alonso. And the way that the Mets gate is suffering this year, like maybe they're like, you just can't.
You might not be able to.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think there's a lot more moving parts here than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see because we're getting closer and closer, and we will keep talking about it. Like you said, back to the games here. Let's talk about Tylor Megill.
Yeah.
Another pretty fine start, I guess is the way I would describe it. Pretty fine. How would you say it, pitching whisperer?
Yeah, I would say totally okay because this
Okay.
is back to the analogy that we've made that's perfect, where like Tylor Megill takes you up,
Yeah.
and it's so annoying because this was a start where he was spotted the big league early, and I still think he objectively pitched well. I'm grabbing the final line right now. It was I know it was just the 5 innings, but 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 runs, totally cool, totally fine. Scattered 5 hits, no big deal, but there's just so many little tiny annoying things that Tylor Megill still does that are really stopping him from actually turning this
2-out
corner and
walk.
finding the potential. What?
2-out walk.
That's what I was about to get to. In the first 2 innings of this game, for some reason, Tylor Megill walked a batter with 2 men out, nobody on. Where Profar is a really good hitter right now, and he takes a lot of walks. Not a lot, he takes some walks, but Tylor Megill showed him a lot of respect in that at bat, where he threw him a first pitch curveball. Tylor Megill this entire game only threw, I got it pulled up right here. This entire game on Sunday, Tylor Megill only threw 8 curveballs. And the first inning, the first pitch that Jerks Profar saw, he threw him a curveball right away. And he missed, with a fastball, and he got to 2 strikes. And then he was just kind of nibbling with Jerks and Profar with 2 strikes. And there, he tried to throw him a 3-2 splitter, which is interesting because Megill is working on the splitter, and it looks really good. It has so much potential, but it's just not something he can really command at all yet.
No.
Even a little bit. I like the throwing against lefties because it really just fades into the opposite batter's box. But he doesn't know where that pitch is going at the end of the day. So him throwing that pitch with 3 balls is like, I'm okay if I walk this guy. And then Cronenworth hits a single, then Machado hits a single, and the Mets are down 1-0 in the first inning. You're like, shit. And then the second inning, same thing happened. He walked Luis Campusano, who never walks. And this is you have a 3-run lead, and you're walking the 9 hitter with 2 guys out. Like it's just those little things. And again, he settled down a lot in the third and the fourth. Looked really good. And then that 5th inning just got a little difficult, starting again with Campusano. And then the top of the Padres order is solid, but they got that. They they squeaked in a run when you're winning 7-1, where like it'd be so nice if you could just get to the 6th inning, get to the 7th inning, and just start cruising. But it's just these little teeny tiny things that he can't really do it. I think he's still a good starter right now. He really
Yes.
is. And the growth has been real and legitimate. I'm going to talk more about that in a little, but he just can't turn that corner and get to the next spot yet.
No. He's but it feels more positive than it has been in the past though. Like we're nitpicking in what was a pretty good
Yes,
start.
totally. Like, because now we're nitpicking from Tylor Megill being like a rotation stopgap kind of guy into like, let's become a real starting pitcher. And
Yes.
again, it keeps coming from all of these weapons that he's now developed. Like, the fact that he has so many of these off-speed pitches now is great. 6 different pitches from Tylor Megill got at least one swing and miss in this game.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. Four of those got exactly one whiff.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, which is fine. But yeah, in the splitter got 2. I think this is the most he's thrown the splitter yet, 2, which is nice development. And that thing is not spinning at all. It's fucking beautiful. But he's chasing the zone with the fastball. It looked good. Just looked good. This is a solid offense, and he has turned himself into a solid pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, it was a pretty good performance by the pitching staff in general. I know game 3, the runs kind of got a little bit crazy, but there was errors and plays not made. But even like game 1, Manaea, 5 innings, 7 strikeouts. The bullpen held it down. Edwin Diaz, that was chaos that 9th inning for sure. I can't believe he got out of it, but through 100 miles per hour officially. James, excited about that one. I know you are, which is just, it's so nice. We finally did it, boys. We made it to 100 miles an hour. And it was great to see that emotion too for him coming off the mound like that, getting that save. I think that did a lot for his mental fortitude, the psyche of Edwin Diaz being like, that's right, I do still got this. Like, even when shit gets tough, I'm going to be able to get the guys out when I need it.
I know you were out and about on Friday, but there was a cool moment between Edwin and Francisco Alvarez you might have missed where
yeah, I didn't catch this.
Edwin was getting into trouble in that 9th inning. And then he basically said after the game that because Alvarez came out for a mound visit, and he came out and basically just told him, hey, like, you're the man. Like, you're the man. And then right there, that was the at-bat against Cronenworth, and Edwin struck him out, and the game was over. With
nasty slider.
With the man on base, yeah. And it was interesting because this was an outing where I did feel really good about Edwin Diaz for the first, like, good, but there was still just some strange moments where, like, he gives the single jerks and profile start the inning. And something that I really liked in when he pitched the day before, and he talked about this, and Gary talked about this, was that like Edwin had the sequencing back, which is what made him so good in 2022. Apart from the stuff being electric, it was just the mixing of the fastball and the slider, hitters not really knowing which one was coming. And that first at bat against Profar, Edwin threw 4 straight fastballs and then 4 straight sliders. And like that 4th slider was like, I knew like Profar was on him. He kept fouling him off. Fouled off 3 sliders in a row. He threw him a 4th slider. I'm just like, I don't know. So it seems like there's still a little bit of a lack of comfortability from going pitch to pitch with Edwin, but the fastball had more life. Like you said, it got to 100 miles an hour, and there was a real chance it was going to fall apart there. Jeff McNeil made a great play, saved the game.
Sick play.
Diving in the hole, keeping Azokar close at second base, getting back to his position, and then diving in the hole to make it. It's great. Jeff has been playing better defense a lot.
Yep.
Because he needs to if he wants to stay in this lineup. He's not hitting still, but cool just to see Edwin have that emotion, pitch, and like be able to bank on him getting that save.
How funny was it also that in terms of pitching, Jose Quintana has one of his best performances against the Padres. The 2 stupid teams in the National League, the Cardinals and the Padres, the guys who still use pen and paper for everything, are the 2 teams that Jose Quintana dices up this year, keeps him under 5 ERA on the season. If there was ever a team that would be confused by Jose Quintana, it would be the team that's led by Mike Schilt, who used to be the Cardinals manager. The connections are everywhere.
I listened to Saturday's game on the radio, and Howie had a Freudian slip talking about Quintana.
Ooh, what'd he say?
He called him Santana.
Ooh, tough.
I know. It kind of got to me a little bit.
Dude, Gary and Ron and all them were also talking about that Quintana looks like Johan on the mound, like from the set position in his windup. And I was like, wait, that's crazy. I didn't know Howie said that too. Weird connection.
That's funny. Howie also had a great story on a Saturday in the radio because it was like we talked about earlier in the episode, the trade deadline. He talked about the day Tom Seaver was traded.
He must have fell to his knees screaming.
Well, he was 23 and he had like his first media job. So he said, I'm so fascinated with the concept of news in general and sports news before Twitter existed.
Like 40 years ago.
Yeah, Howie said he learned about the trade at the gas station of Utopia Parkway, driving I think from Long Island to Queens or to work or something. And Larry Brooks, who's the famous Ranger hockey writer, was doing like a radio show and like, all right, news has come through that Tom Seaver's been traded to the Cincinnati Reds, and like he was filling up his car and he said like a bunch of other people listened to it, and they're like there was like a moment of interaction between the people at the gas station knowing that Tom Seaver was traded. But also that was how he had his first job. He said it was a network or a station or something, young reporter, 23 years old, and he was at Shea Stadium when like Steve was cleaning out his locker and like getting out of there, like getting sound bites. And then his editor, his boss, his director told him, "Hey, I need you to follow Tom to the airport from Shea and then just walk with him to the gate and get me a couple sound bites." So 23-year-old Howie Rose, his sports hero, the best
Yeah.
player he'd ever seen in his life, he had to drive behind him from Shea to LaGuardia, park his car, walk with him to the gate and ask him questions, and then
Oh,
watch his plane take off.
it's insane.
It would have brought me to my knees. I wouldn't have been able to recover from that. Like that would have been like watching David Wright get operated on in 2012. Like that's crazy. He had to watch the plane take off. He was like, my heart was broken. I had to like be the last person to basically see him on his way out of New York.
That's an amazing story.
Such
Damn.
a good
I
story.
wish we got that last year or 2
I
years
know,
ago.
right? Amazing. Also, yeah, right. Keith had such a funny comment today. They were talking Father's Day in SNY. And Gary goes, "Happy Father's Day out there," because the Mets always do think I think Sundays or weekends where like they send a kid out to every position, they could talk to the player
Yes.
for a little bit. Happy Father's Day. These kids out there get to meet their heroes today. Well, their dads are the real heroes, but these players they get to meet are probably a close second. And then Keith goes, "My dad couldn't hold a candle to Mickey Mantle."
Dude, Keith's been awesome. Keith's
So
back, by
good,
the way. He's so back. Like
so good.
last year, I was kind of getting worried we were losing him a little bit, like just being a little curmudgeon-y, but he's now taken that curmudgeon-y and made it great. He was talking about again on the deadline or anniversary of him being traded to the Mets. He was like, I thought the Mets were on my no trade list. I thought they were on my list of teams I couldn't be traded to. I think there was 4 teams, one of them being Oakland, and they made a joke because obviously Keith from the Bay Area. And he was like, "Oh, I couldn't play for Oakland. My dad would be screaming at everything that I'm doing wrong as I'm playing the game. He was, I would never be able to play. I'd be crippled."
That's I mean, it's true. Keith's dad was very intense. He talks about that a lot, but no, just funny. Like we're so blessed to have Howie, Keith, Gary, like Ron. Everything is
And
just so
Keith,
great. And Keith Rad,
yeah,
great too. But it's
and
just
Pat.
Pat McCarthy. Pat McCarthy's really good too. Like you watch other teams play baseball, and it's like it's just not the same.
No,
It really isn't. And even objective third party fans watch Mets games like these are the best announcers in the sport. It's not even close.
yeah, us and the Padres. Those are two that do not miss. That Padres booth is
Yeah,
also
Don.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
Mud
good.
and Don Orsillo.
I think that's it. There. There's other tiny little things I wanted to mention. Some little
Daniel
stupid
Nunez,
stats.
your boy.
Still fucking awesome. Just I mean,
Yep,
pulling relievers out of thin air. Like the fact that we're a team that does that now,
so
so
awesome,
good, so cool, it's
so
so
cool.
amazing. Oh, no, I can't wait for Danny Young to come back up. But yeah, those little stupid things we're gonna talk about real quick. Housekeeping. JD Martinez 20 game on base streak. Pete Alonso, this was the 9th game in his career on Sunday that he drove in at least 5 runs. I wanted to quickly shout out Jackson Merrill because the 2 home
Good
runs he
ball
hit this
player.
series off of lefties were really impressive. The one on Friday night off of Minaya, who doesn't give up a lot of home runs in general. It was raining at Citi Field, and off a lefty, Merrill put his home runs like the deepest part of right of
Oh yeah,
like just right of center field. Like I was like, that's a sick shot. Also, Minaya just he doesn't give length at all anymore. Like he's 5 straight outings. He has not completed 6 innings, and he's only gotten pitched 6 innings in 3 of his 13 starts this year.
Eesh.
Yeah. So, but again, it's fine. Like he's still a good
So
like setting.
we knew he was that.
It's exactly what he is. He is so exactly this is funny. And then also just one update about Christian Scott. So was talking to Matt Eddy a lot this week, and there's a new rule in the CBA I didn't know for a minor league assignment to not affect your major league service time. You have to go down for at least 20 days.
Okay.
So 20 days for Christian Scott to be in the minor leagues is this Thursday. So I think there's a chance he might pitch in the Cubs series. Chance, maybe. I don't know. Because he's not going to pitch it in the Yankee series. So I think this Cubs series is the perfect way to get his feet wet before the Houston series in 2 weekends.
Also, shout out Luis Torrens, another home
Oh,
run.
fucking awesome. This guy saved the whole season, legitimately.
Love Luis Torrens. This guy is just such a little ball player. I can't
Yeah.
believe he hasn't been able to stick somewhere. I'm going to make that comment. Why isn't he been able to stick?
He's had hot runs before, but he hasn't been able to stick.
He was a Padre. Good to do it against his former team, I'm sure, which is great. So shout out Luis Torrens, another home run already. He has I think a 200 OPS plus, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, I think it's like a 1200 OPS in general. But I think that's closing the book in the Padres series. I'm pretty sure.
Closing the book on the Padres series. If we miss anything, you can yell at us in the comment section or tweet at us. That's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
We'll be good with it. We're recording this on Father's Day. It was like almost 7 hours after the game ended. Me and James are wrapping up this podcast. Of course, it is the weekend though, so we're going to have some media marvels for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and jump forward with mine since I'm talking already.
Yeah.
Was watching Sunday Night Baseball, and Buster Olney comes on because of course he does, because there's only the only person that likes to hear themselves talk more than me and James is Buster Olney himself. He loves the sound of his own voice.
Fucking
And he was
loser.
talking about how ESPN was doing an all-star game selection content piece or whatever. And out of all the writers, he got the first pick overall. And he was like, I'm having a really hard time. Do I pick from the shortstops of Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt Jr., Anthony Volpe? And Carl Ravitch is like, Anthony Volpe? You sure about that? And then David Cohn, what did I text you exactly that he said? I think he was like, yeah, not only are Bobby Witt Jr. and Gunnar Henderson all-star candidates for the shortstop position, they're also MVP candidates. Volpe, not on the same level there, Buster. And
No, he's
he
not.
didn't say a word. He just got shut up so quickly. So this isn't even like Anthony Volpe, good baseball player, objectively good baseball player. This isn't even like Yankee slander or hate. But comparing him to fucking Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr., Francisco Lindor has better numbers than Anthony Volpe this year. I know it's different leagues, but like, I mean, geez, Buster Olney, really, man, he's so weird sometimes with his takes.
Yeah, Volpe's also just like the first like few weeks of the season, it was great, and he is striking out less, but the power is totally gone right now from his profile, and he's not. He has been hitting very well for like a month now. So
Yeah.
again, good little player. I don't think he's anywhere worth all-star consideration. Gunnar Henderson legitimately might be the MVP of the league. It's either him or Aaron Judge. Whoever wins the division is going to be the MVP. But it was a nice try. I got another media marvel. I just found this one. I just remembered about it.
Ooh, okay.
Mark Bowman. He is Braves beat writer for MLB.com for like 20 years. He has like that classic headshot on Twitter that I'm sure you've seen before. Very fat guy with a goatee. I'll drop you his at right now. You'll definitely
put it in there for me because
yeah.
I off of name alone, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, name
But
of course not, but relevant. So he covers the Braves. He had a tweet about Austin Riley over the weekend. Austin Riley this weekend, his season completely turned around. He raised his OPS like a full 100 points this weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah, hit a home run every single game against the Rays. That offense has fully gotten going, even though they lost Michael Harris. But now have Jared Kelenic leading off, which is so much fun. I love that so much. It's so great. But his tweet from Mark Baumann on Saturday afternoon. That's going to be one of the most memorable and emotional homers of Austin Riley's career. He had an 8th inning game-tying home run today for the Braves. He lost a good friend and mentor in a car wreck last night. I don't want to release who it is until after Riley has the chance to talk about it post-game.
What?
He tweeted the words, "This is what happened, but I don't want to say it." Insane. And then he got a lot of shit for this. And a couple of minutes later, he quote tweeted his own tweet. I should have known this would create speculation. Yeah, you don't think he tried to intentionally create speculation about the death of someone close to somebody else. Former Braves hitting instructor Mike Brumley was killed in a car accident. Riley spent time working with him in Baltimore this week.
Jesus Christ.
So this beat writer for the Braves publicized he got murdered for this.
I mean,
people like, why would you put this out?
Did he baited death?
He baited that like someone really close to Austin Riley in the Braves organization was tragically killed in a car accident.
Jesus.
On Saturday night.
I mean,
this happened.
People are shameless, man. I know I bait people all the time on Twitter, but you won't ever catch me doing that shit.
Totally, but it's just there's so many baseball journalists out there who just don't really have anyone's best interest in mind other than their own.
No,
and they don't care about privacy. They don't care about accuracy. He's like, I should have known this would create speculation. No shit. You typed the speculation. You did the whole speculation.
You created it.
He lost a good friend and mentor in a car wreck last night. I don't want to release it until Riley has a chance to talk about it. You literally did this during the game. It was 3:46 p.m. The game was going on.
Didn't have to tweet it. Didn't have to be that guy.
Insane. Just so I was so annoyed.
I feel bad for the Braves and Austin Riley as well. Just put that out there.
Yeah, horrible. It's a horrible tragedy. Yeah, it's awful. But I just wanted to shout that out because it was such a frustrating thing to see on Twitter. But then last media marvel, there's a good one. Snoop Dogg, known baseball journalist, baseball aficionado. The Brewers had him in. They did the whole event with Snoop Dogg on Saturday. I don't know why. I didn't know the pretense of it, but he was like in the players' tunnel with the players before the game taking pictures, and he was in the booth. I don't know how long. Yes, I don't know why. No idea. But he was announcing, and he was like, yeah, I came in the players' entrance. I'm a player. And then they were laughing about that. And then he saw Ellie De La Cruz make a throw. He was like, who is that? He was like, that was incredible. He was like, that man's got a howitzer. He's got in his pocket or something. He's got a rocket in his pocket. And I was like, this is really cool. I feel like just baseball is the sport that gets gatekeeped the most. Yes. We're allowed to have the least fun with baseball. And I think it's telling that like there's one like cool, edgy baseball blog and podcast that everyone seems to love, and it's like some of the worst content's ever been created. Yeah, like there's a tiny bit of fun that seeps into baseball, and people are like, this is great. But like basketball, football, even hockey, there's so much more fun had in those sports. So it was a nice moment of levity for baseball, for the Brewers to let Snoop Dogg be in the booth and just like have some fun. He doesn't know any of the players. He doesn't know anything going on. He
No.
understands how baseball works. And he was like, this is cool. I like this stuff.
That was like when they let Snoop Dogg do the announcing for, I think it was like Logan or Jake Paul's like boxing, and he's just
Yeah.
like on there just like cursing, but oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that. I like having fun things in baseball. 'Cause baseball's a really fun sport. Baseball's incredible. I'm sure you
Yeah.
guys think that if you're watching this. So nice that baseball sometimes allows itself to have some fun.
Yeah, love that. Love that for baseball. Quick media marvels for this episode. We were talking a lot about stuff today. And we have a Rangers series to preview here. We don't get to see the Texas Rangers as much as, well, we'll get to see them every year now, thanks to the new schedule. Right? Am I right, James?
Get the fuck out of here. I'm not doing it right now. I can't.
But give us the pitching matchups. How about that?
Pitching matchup this series against the Rangers Monday night. Quick turnaround. Mets flying to Texas after this game on Sunday. Did you see Pete's outfit getting on the plane?
It was awesome. I'll give him that. That's
Yeah.
good vibes.
Yeah, it was funny. The team seems like they are having more fun. But Monday night, John Gray versus David Peterson. Tuesday night, Luis Severino versus Michael Lorenzen. And Wednesday night, series ending at the night. So we got a late recording on Wednesday night for the two of us. Sean Manaea versus Andrew Heaney. So
just to complain more, we also have a late recording on Sunday night too. We have Sunday night baseball against the Cubs. What the fuck is that?
Maybe we'll watch that one together. Maybe stream something.
Ooh,
Could do something.
Nope. I will be at my friend's bachelor party. Shout out, Brad.
Oh, I forgot. Even Sunday night, you'll still be there.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll play it by ear. Back to the Rangers here. We could talk about that off air. You guys don't need to hear that. Yeah. Rangers team this year is weird. They are in a similar spot as the Mets. I think they're 33-37 or 34-30, something along those lines. Very, very similar. But they're a better team. I think that's safe to say. This is a team that won the World Series last year. Corey Seager, after a slow start, completely back to being Corey Seager. So good. Weirdly, Josh Smith has been one of their better hitters this year. I don't know how or why, but he's got a WRC plus and an OPS over 800, which is disgusting. Marcus Semien, pro's pro. All he does is hit and play baseball and play second base every single day. But then you've got Adolis Garcia, who's been ice cold. You've got Wyatt Langford, who still has not hit a baseball outside of a stadium this year with only one home run. They're playing guys like Travis Jankowski a lot. Ezekiel Duran is playing a lot. They're trying to figure it out on the offensive side because the four guys are really carrying it right now. And then on the pitching side, they're good, but not good. And also maybe they're better than they should. This is a weird Rangers team. I got no vibe with them right now.
Mets actually have a better record than Rangers right now. They're 33-38 after, did they lose? Yeah, they got shut out by the Mariners and Logan Gilbert on Sunday. But it seems like kind of similar to last year where they just don't look like the best team at all. But again, they're able to get hot. And they
a little World Series hangover too, I think.
I think it's also, again, last year they just got super hot. Like, and they're doing the thing I talked about, the bastardization of baseball, where all you really have to do is just hang around 500. That's all you have to do in baseball these days. And the Rangers show you, because the Rangers won 11 straight games on the road. They didn't really have any good pitchers in the playoffs. They still were able to do this. Like, Nathan Eovaldi's been good, but he's just a ticking time bomb. They're hoping that DeGrom and Scherzer come back. Interesting that we're going to play the series and neither of those guys are in the picture. Kind of annoying.
Is DeGrom ever going to pitch against the Mets?
He said he's coming, but he said he's playing on August still. He said he's been throwing, so I don't know. We don't know what's happening, but like the four guys in this team who have thrown 60 innings this year are Andrew Heaney, Michael Lorenzen, John Gray, and Nathan Eovaldi. So 3 perpetually injured pitchers and Michael Lorenzen. And Michael Lorenzen, they signed him in the middle of March? Like, it's just it's a strange roster, but I think their whole goal is hang around 500, try and have a run. Maybe DeGrom and Scherzer come back to be the top of the rotation, and then try to do the whole thing again because the lineup still can be that good. But yeah, they're just strange in a strange spot.
They got a familiar face as well. We'll be seeing David Robertson, who is pitching really well this year. He's been one of their better bullpen arms, along with Kirby Yates, who has been pretty shut down, pretty cash money. They said, Jose Leclerc, remember how you put the team on your back to win a World Series for us? Yeah. Fuck you. Kirby Yates is the closer.
Well, Leclerc wasn't pitching well. Like, that's just going to happen. But it's just the strange team. And like, sometimes you look at them like, how'd you guys win the World Series last year? But
I know how. Adolis Garcia and Corey Seager and Evan Carter. Evan Carter hurt. Was also struggling mightily to start the year.
Yeah, it's just he can't hit the lefties. I don't know. And like Langford too, like maybe just got to play a little more in the minor leagues. I don't know. This roster is bizarre. It is. Like, I'm not scared of them, but I also don't know. Also, the pitching matchups this year are weird. Like, I David Peterson against that lineup. Then we get Lorenzen and Heaney. I'm not scared in any way. John Gray's having a very good season. He's had a big time resurgence. He's thrown a lot of fastballs and sliders, but I don't know. This isn't a big vibe series. We don't play in. When's the last time we even played in Texas? Like, it's strange.
We could probably find that out.
Yeah,
I can't do that right now, but
why not?
How am I going to find that? When's the last time we played in Texas?
I guess Mets at Rangers.
What do you
Uh, Me-
search?
Mets Rangers baseball series history.
Baseball. Okay, I'll
It'll
do
be
that for you.
I think
Talk
baseball almanac will pop
talk
up.
about a random player or reliever you like.
Oh, I don't. They don't really.
Is there anybody?
They don't really have guys like that. I mean, Jonathan Hernandez throws Ched. We know that, but I don't know if he's healthy right now. I think he is. Jack Leiter, I don't think is up.
2017.
Okay, there you go. It's a long time ago. 7
Yeah,
years.
that's a long time ago. I think, and they only played a 2-game series. That's kind of crazy.
Jose Urania is on this team. He almost threw a perfect game last week for some reason. Cody Bradford is not like I don't. This team is just weird. They're a strange ball club. Like we're gonna get a lot of storylines about DeGrom and Scherzer, but oh yeah, Jonathan Hernandez actually is healthy and he's given up runs in his last 2 appearances. But he throws Chad. If you guys see Jonathan Hernandez, he throws really hard. He's got a really nasty slider. He's a solid reliever, even though the stats don't back it up so far.
Hold
this
on.
year.
To interrupt here, since we have nothing to talk about, want to hear the Rangers lineup the last time we played them in Texas?
Yeah.
Leading off, playing left field, Delino DeShields. DH, Shin-Soo Choo. Shortstop, hitting third, Elvis Andrews. Hitting third. That's insane.
Wow.
Fourth, Nomar Mazara. Fifth, Robinson Chirinos. Sixth, Rougned Odor. Seventh, Ryan Rua playing first base. Eighth, Joey Gallo playing third. And ninth, playing center, Jared Hoying. You know who pitched?
Who?
You Darvish, because that guy's 100 years old and he's been around forever.
Find that baseball reference box score. Take a screenshot, send it to me. I'll schedule that tweet for Messed Up Twitter tomorrow.
Gotcha. I will do that.
Banger.
Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. That's it. We're talking about our tweets on the podcast here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching whatever you do. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Giveaways are happening this week. We've got the London Series shirt and the London Series program to give away. So make sure you follow us on all our social media to see how you can be entered into that. We do appreciate it. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you want to see our beautiful faces talk about this previous series. We'd love for you to subscribe over there. That's how we make our money. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Draftnik Mark with a C.
Wait,
real quick.
You got a shout out.
Oh, I do?
Yeah, remember the wedding?
Yeah. Shout out Tim. Went to his wedding. Tim and Sarah went to their wedding on Friday. Big Mets fans, big fan of the Messed Up podcast.
And we're going to have a guest coming on to preview the Cubs series next week. Lance Brazdowski. He's the man. He's Twitter friend of Mark and I's. He's just knows so much about pitching and prospects. Excited to have him on for a few minutes talking ball.
Yeah, he's awesome. Do we want to see if we have any quick reviews to read out as well? I don't feel like we've done a review shout out in a while. If anyone's dropped us,
I don't think we've gotten any in a while. To be honest, we might have to do the call to action again.
All right, I'm gonna check it real quick here as we're wrapping up. I'm just gonna click Mets'd Up. How do I find this? Oh, got it. Here we go. Reviews, and we don't have any new ones. All right, if you want one, you want to shout out on the podcast, drop us a review. If not, it's the end of the episode. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace out. See you guys next time.